What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well. And I just got out of seeing Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And let's just say, there was a lot of madness in the film. It's kind of a mixed bag of things for me personally, because there are just so many things that happen and so many characters and cameos that it's really hard to talk about the things that I liked and also the things that I hated without going into spoilers. So since I do want to keep this first review spoiler free, I'm going to try and really talk about the things that I feel like I can talk about. So first off, let's just talk about the overall story. I thought that the story actually was actually a bit messy, and makes a lot of sense when you're going to deal with a multiverse, as we've already seen whenever when Marvel tried to deal with time travel. Endgame. It was very clear that the people who were writing it and the people who were directing it had different visions of what was going on. And with this film, with the multiverse, I feel like it kind of fell into that same trap. Not to say that there was as much miscommunication, as I think that they just are so out of ideas at this point that they are just going to throw everything at the wall, see what sticks, throw in a bunch of crazy stuff and try and get some laughs and try and get some people to be like, what in the world's going on, kind of for that wow factor. And that's kind of what the story came across as. It's just this hodgepodge of different things, of different ideas, of different characters. And parts of it worked, parts of it didn't work. I think that the overall theme and the overall conclusion is just very, very weak, especially when, with the way that the ending comes about, you just, at least for me, I automatically thought back, wait a minute, but there's a character that says exactly this, and yet it took this moment, it took this event in order for you to actually realize it. Like, to me, it just came across as silly, because I'm like, okay, so we just went through this entire rest of this movie just so that you could find out what was already told to you. And I know that I'm speaking very cryptically here, but I'm also trying to, again, avoid any major plot points for those that actually care about the actual movie. But the story is very much a mess, just to say the very least. Again, there's some interesting elements. Obviously, multiverse in general is interesting, but there's a film that does a much better job with a multiverse that's already still out in theaters. In fact, Everything Everywhere All at Once. I almost forgot the name of it because it's a mouthful. Everything Everywhere All at Once, I thought, did a better job not only handling the physics of a multiverse, the logic of a multiverse, but also had a lot more fun with it, and the fun felt a lot more authentic. With this one, it just felt very forced. Like, everything within this film felt very forced. It's one of those few times, for me at least, where, typically I enjoy the random Marvel humor that's typically thrown into films. This is the one where I ended up not really laughing at any of the typical Marvel humor, and it almost felt out of place. And that brings me to the part that I both loved and hated about the movie, and that was the direction of the film, because Sam Raimi gives some really good and interesting parts to this film as far as his direction, because I would say that this film could almost be classified in a lot of ways as a horror film. There is some pretty disturbing imagery. There's a lot of really cool visual throwbacks to some of his earlier films. Like, there were just moments in the film that reminded me of like the Evil Dead Army of Darkness style. And I love those moments. I thought that those moments were probably some of the best in the film, because I felt like Sam Raimi was really in his wheelhouse. But then at the same time, there's just so much going on. There's so many people involved. And there's just so many other characters that are intertwining. And it really isn't even that much of a Doctor Strange film. I mean, it is technically, if you had to go by screen time and things like that. But you already have so much other stuff going on. And obviously, this is not much of a spoiler, but America Chavez is obviously a key factor and a key part of this movie, as is Scarlet Witch. And so it's almost like all three of them are sharing screen time, and they're splitting it in a way where it almost feels like there's like a solid third that each one gets. And I guess maybe Doctor Strange himself maybe gets a little bit more, which I think kind of goes into what has been talked about on Friday Night Tights. And obviously Gary of Nerdrotic has talked about this a lot as well, about, this movement towards the MCU. And this is very, very much focused in that direction. I will say that much. And so if anyone's concerned about that element kind of taking over in a heavy-handed way, not in a natural way, not in a way that makes sense, but in a very heavy-handed, forced way, then I think that you're going to be able to tell pretty much from the get-go, This is not going to really be a Doctor Strange film. This is going to be, let's set up America Chavez. Let's try and create her and prop her up. It kind of reminded me of kind of what they did with Iron Man and Ironheart, right? Where Ironheart is featured in the Iron Man comics, and then they try and let her go on her own, and then it just didn't end up working out. It feels like that's what they're trying to do with this character of America Chavez. I don't really know. I thought the actress that played her was fine. I thought that overall, I mean, again, the acting in the film was pretty spot on. I thought everyone did the characters exactly the way that they should. Definitely think Elizabeth Olsen's Scarlet Witch, though, because her character was so heavy-handed, definitely came across as like a ham. It was almost like a hammy evil villain character. And yeah, it's just I don't get what they're trying to do with her character, right? They turn her into a villain in the show, right, in the WandaVision show, and then they try and show some sense of redemption, but then they kind of go back on it. And then this film just kind of blows all that up in a lot of different ways. And it's just very confusing. So yeah, I think just the writing of the film is just, I think, really messy at times. So there are some good parts, and I think it's really when the Sam Raimi-isms and when the Sam Raimi elements come out that the film really does shine. And I do think that there are some really good acting moments in the film as well. One thing I will say, I was very frustrated with my theater. So this is the AMC 12 here in Chattanooga. This is the one that I decided to go to because it had the earliest showtime that worked with my schedule. And so not only did the screen during the entire trailers, like, I don't know what was going on, like literally it kept moving, and then it looked like a curtain was like moving across the screen during times. It was very weird. They finally got it fixed when the film itself actually started, which was nice. But when I originally got the ticket, because I'm an AMC A-list, and so, it's one of my free, tickets that I can get. And when I originally got it, I wanted to see it in a big, large screen format. And I didn't realize that it was going to be in 3D. And so immediately when they hand me my 3D glasses, I'm just like, oh my goodness, that's right. This is a Disney movie, and it's a Disney film that they know is going to get a lot of eyes. And so Disney is forcing, because I remember I used to work at a theater, and this is what Disney does. Disney forces theaters, if they want to host any of their films, and they think the film's going to be big enough to where they could make some quick extra bucks from the 3D format, they will literally force theaters to have a certain number of 3D showings if they want the film at all. So let's say there's a theater that's 3D capable. Disney will tell them, oh, you need to have 3 showtimes a day at least. This is just a random number. 3 showtimes at least. They have to be prime slots, and they have to be in 3D. And this is how they get you. And so when I originally got the ticket, I didn't even see 3D. I just saw it was the big format. It's the big D format here at this theater. And so when they hand me my 3D glasses, I'm like, oh, freaking Disney. And of course, what's one of the trailers? Avatar 2. And I can say, even though the screen was all jacked up because it was kind of up in the corner so I could see maybe part of the screen, it does not look very good. The visual effects don't look like they've changed much at all, which means I can't imagine that there's going to be a good story from it, but that's a whole other video for a whole other day. But I do think that, again, that does bring in part of the overall experience with the film. Just remind you, again, that Disney is this multi-corporation billion-dollar company that works with communists in China, and to such a degree where they're going to get millions upon millions of dollars. And obviously I know that this film, because it features, because there is the LGBT stuff in the film, not really a whole lot of it, to be perfectly honest, but enough to where, the China censors are going to be like, you can't show this film, and other countries are boycotting it as well. And, they're going to try and say, well, at least Disney didn't cut it out, even though Disney has cut it out of their films before and kowtowed to those regimes, but it doesn't even matter. This film is a mess. It's a mess. There's some good parts. There's some bad parts. There's some parts that are just like, okay, you're just kind of going as crazy with it as you want. So yeah, depending on what you want, if you want a multiverse film, you're going to get one. If you want a really good, well-written multiverse film, go see Everything Everywhere All at Once. If you are a typical normie, general Marvel fan, and you like anything that Marvel does and you don't overthink things too much, you might enjoy the film. You might walk out, I think, being a little bit confused. Some of the sentiment that I got from the people who were walking out was like, I thought that was enjoyable. And then I heard the other person next to him say, yeah, I liked it, but I think I liked the first film better. And I think it's just because the first Doctor Strange film actually was competent, was on point. It knew exactly what it wanted to be. Whereas this one, again, as the title implies, a bit of madness. I'm going to go ahead and give this film a C+. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's not the worst Marvel film I've ever seen. It's definitely not, Captain Marvel levels by any means. And let's just say, There's tons of stuff that I could go into with spoilers, and I'm sure that I'll have a spoiler video at some point, or we'll talk spoilers on Friday Night Tights, because there's just a lot of stuff to unpack. But again, not the worst film I've ever seen, but also not all that. And to me, this is like, I think, the new standard for Marvel, where it's like, yeah, it's fine, but it's also just, it's there, you know? I've seen it. I don't really feel the need to see it again. It's not a film I feel like I need to have in my collection so I can go back and watch it. It doesn't have the same nostalgic elements as Spider-Man No Way Home did that made me want to rewatch it, because even Spider-Man No Way Home didn't really have those rewatchable elements except for those nostalgic elements. This doesn't really have that. So I think a C+ is a pretty, I don't know, I think it's a pretty fair rating. But what are y'all's thoughts? Have you seen Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness? And do you agree with my assessment, if you've seen Everything Everywhere All at Once, that that's the better multiverse film? I personally think it is, but what are y'all's thoughts? Let me know in the comment section down below. There's no doubt this film is going to make bank this weekend, though. I'm just, again, a numbers guy, and that's what the numbers say. Let me know. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Smash the like button, and as always, God bless. Before going any further, I wanted to give a very, very huge special shout out to one of my Valkyries, one of my longtime supporters, Tina B, the Empress of the Universe. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for being a supporter and for being a mod on this channel. And now for a huge special shout out to all of my members who are at the Keeper of the Bifrost level and above on Patreon, Subscribestar, and Locals. So first on Patreon, Brandon, let's go Brandon, Christopher Bowman, Garrett Searles, Hymir Irie Hymason, Jacob from Holland, Jacob Juice, who you can check out on his Letterboxd. Jacob Juice is how you can find it. Jeffrey Toon, Joey Horn, Jonathan Carney, Laura, the Modern Major General, Story, Mad Mike Jackson, special shout out for him in a second, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Orange Hat Reviews, you can check out his channel, Orange Hat Reviews, Rosetta Allen, you can check out her channel as well, Stan Andrian, and Miss Martin Muses, who also has a YouTube channel. And a special shout out, as I mentioned, to Jacob Juice from Holland, again, letterboxd.com/Jacob Juice for more information about him. And a special shout out to my members over on Subscribestar, Matt 317, Storm Tracker, The R, Fast Reaction, Mr. Roy, J-Rod, the Beer Guru, and ZK-Man. Thank y'all very much for supporting on Subscribestar. And to two of the members who are supporting me over on Locals, who asked for special shout-outs. First off, Minnesota hockey fan. Let's go. Let's get a hockey player. And UAB, Mad Dog, Mike Jackson for the win. Thank you very much for supporting me, and also Robert Barnes on Locals as well. Anyway, if you want a special shout out, and Brett D90 for that matter, if you want a special shout out at the end of every single video, please check out that top link at the very top of the video description. It'll give you more information about the different tiers and what you get every single month. Thank you guys for your love, for your patience, for this month's shout out video as well. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless.